Hi, I'm Edio Beretta here, and this time I'm giving feedback on a whole short movie, which is something that happens fairly frequently. This is a video feedback I recorded at the time the movie was still in production. I waited to publish this because the movie wasn't still publicly available. The title is Kiwi's Dream, a short movie produced by Escape Studios students. The movie is doing fairly well in festival circuits, and this video contains spoilers, so I suggest you head over to Vimeo and watch the short movie first before watching this video. You will find a link in the description. I'm going to first have a look at the 2D Animatic, then comment on some of the character design issues, and finally I'm going to talk about animation, posing, acting and action beats. If you are interested, just follow along. So let's have a look at the short movie. So first of all, I will have a look at the Animatic and I will comment on it just to see what I understand of the story here. So we have a pan, we see an eagle, the music is very emotional, so the eagle is important. Two characters there, the two characters are looking up, so clearly they admire something in the eagle. And this dude in particular is transfixed by the eagle until he notices something, which is another character coming in, and then he runs to that character. They probably know each other, and still he's fascinated by the wings, which seems to be missing in this guy. So that's good. The crane here is sort of patting him on the back, but on the other hand, there's somebody who has an idea. So let's see what the idea is about. There's something in the book. We don't know what's in the book there, but maybe the crane is telling the guy, look, there's something useful. It's exciting, nice. So let's work together and get it sorted. And that's the final piece. Nice. We all look at it. We are super happy. We're ready to try it. It's a prototype. So let's go. Ready? Go. That's the story. It's a great story. Oh, it's still going. There you go. So, nice story. I think that the biggest area of risk in there is when the Kiwi notices something. It would be great if there was some sort of visual cue that tells us what the Kiwi is noticing, what makes the Kiwi turn his head. And I think what could be there is, first of all, a shadow. I mean, it could be a shadow that travels maybe in this direction and covers first these guys and then here maybe, and then I would maybe some foley, maybe we could hear paper flying, right? And that would give the Kiwi the cue to turn the head, because right now there is no visual cue. So this is definitely an area that needs love and an area of risk. If you don't sort it out, the Kiwi is turning because he read the script. The other area of risk is the elephant looking up. The elephant really has no reason to look up. He doesn't want to fly. I mean, clearly it's not part of his dreams, and it would need to be a different beast altogether to fly if his friend does. So I think if I were an elephant and my friend and I were staring up, I would probably look down at my friend in the end. And then if I were the director, I would want the camera to go and check the friend as well. So the elephant could be the cue to lead to the cut to the Kiwi. These are the two areas that I think would need addressing. The rest is pretty clear. I would probably want a more epic shot for the paper plane. If I were the director, I would want it to look like a supercar of some sort, something super cool. Right now it's a bit underwhelming. It feels almost as if this vase is more important. So that's probably something that, I mean, it's not going to be a party breaker, but it's something that I would consider if I could change it. Now let's have a look at the animation work in progress. At this stage is probably halfway through a blocking, I would say. So I would press play. First shot, nothing relevant happens in there in terms of animation. The shot works alone with just the camera. That's great. And then we have the two guys. So in here, it would be nicer if the back legs of the elephant weren't perfectly parallel, and if the Kiwi maybe were a bit, it can be more three quarters, because the postcard is actually a bit too centered. Maybe the postcard could be a bit more to the left in here, so that the Kiwi could stare it a bit stared it a bit better. Right now he's looking at something that happens over there, but there's the eagle in the middle, and this guy we have never seen until now. So maybe it would be better if the eagle were a bit more center, a bit more to camera left there. Also, I would probably expect the kiwi to be here, maybe, and maybe this sort of this other bird which I don't recognize at the back, just to, and the elephant maybe here. And the other bird at the back. So we have the eagle, the thing we all want to be, and the two animals up there that we also see down here. That would probably build a more solid composition if we ever get to see these two guys up there, because I don't think we'll spend too much time in there. But hey, the elephant in there, as I said, maybe not parallel legs. And now let's go to the next shot. And in the next shot, the kiwi there is way too small for somebody who's going to take the next shot. And if you check the animatic, in fact, in the animatic, the two characters are way more prominent, and in here they are so underwhelming. I'm not really sure what I'm looking at in here. Maybe it would be better if the floor was invisible and the book was invisible so that we can place the character. I think we could go, I mean, in this shot the director could go as far as maybe cheating and put the characters half cut here so that we have them a bit bigger looking up with the elephant in here. Sorry, I'm using a very old Wacom. There you go. Maybe that could, why am I drawing a man there? There you go. That's the kiwi up there. So I think that would be more in line with 2D animatic, if there's no room on the floor, that is. And it would help a lot introducing the characters. Remember, this is the first time we know who these characters are. Right now, the only thing we know from the previous shot is that they are two things. But in the next shot, we're going to know who they are. But if they are going to be this small, in a sea of negative space all around them, then maybe we want them to be a bit bigger, just like in the animatic. Also, maybe as a cue to change the camera between 20 and 30, you could have at the end of 20 the elephant looking up a little bit, so that we would cut on the elephant. And then in here, as I said earlier, oh sorry, this is still the animatic. And then in shot 30, the elephant could keep scanning up, so we cut in action to the elephant scanning up, and then he would look down at the kiwi. And that's when we cut to the kiwi. There is really no need for the action here to have the elephant looking disconnecting from what he was doing. That guy has to look up, that's it. And maybe look at the kiwi, that's it. And the kiwi certainly is the one who doesn't have to do anything. He needs to stay there and just stay there. Maybe you could sigh, but I don't know if you really even need that. I don't think you need it. I think this shot probably belongs to the elephant. Now we cut to the kiwi, to the eagle, that's fine, that works. And then we cut to the kiwi again on shot 50. And this is super problematic, because while the model of the kiwi looks nice from a 3D quarter perspective, I mean, it doesn't look quite origami, does it? It looks a bit more like low poly geometry. I was looking at Kiwi's origami, but you see that they tried to build a skull for the kiwi, and even in 3D, in a bit more proper origami, you see there's always a tentative there to build the volume. So I feel that in here, either the angle goes or the model gets a revamp down here, because right now this is going to, I mean, this is the shot in which we introduce the kiwi and its aspirations, and this is the one shot in which it doesn't look like a kiwi, and it looks like we're looking at an empty shell in there, and that's not the character. I mean, you would want the character to be alive, and if you present it as an empty shell, you're going to have a bit of trouble, I think, to tell the story. So that shot really needs some work. And also the other thing is that you're fully frontal almost, and I think even if you put the whole animation on a layer, and even if the beak was coming out just as much, maybe even the model would work a lot better at that stage, because you would have a lot less of a gap in there. But this gap is way too big. I mean, for a shot, for a character that needs to stand in front of a camera frontally, having a gap that big in the character, not a good deal, because you're going to, I mean, it's going to look like there's something unfinished there. So it looks good from the 3/4, but right now it's a bit problematic from the front. It's my opinion anyway. I mean, you can decide what you want to do, of course, in the end. I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking, from a character perspective, from a design perspective, I feel that I'm more, as an audience, I'm looking into the black hole in there, into the empty shell, and not to the character. So I would probably use a layer to try and rotate the beak a bit more, the head a bit more to the camera left, so that the beak is a bit more visible in the silhouette. This sort of sigh is a bit strange because it does, I mean, it's sort of there, I think, it does, but it doesn't go down, right? It does like so, but maybe I would think like, I would think of something like that, right? It would be a romantic sigh. It would be, right now it feels like he's doing, and that's it. It doesn't really go down. You don't have to do it, but I was expecting that to go down. And then we would have the cue of something flying in. I guess there would be a shadow in here and the fluttering of paper in the falling sound. It feels like the Kiwi is looking. It feels like something in the front right side of the Kiwi attracted his attention. So I think the cue is going to happen behind the Kiwi, right? So I think it would probably be easier and more convincing if the Kiwi sensed something. So instead of looking in front of himself, he could probably do something like, you know, he was down there staring up. It could be, and then turn. If I were the Kiwi, I would probably stare up, sense something, turn, and then turn with the head, and then go in that direction. I would probably do these beats. Or anyway, stare up, sense something, and then turn in a go and go. But I think head turn and then another turn would probably work better in terms of storytelling. You see, very few beats. You don't really need to do any crazy animation there. Here, the cut between the two shots, 60 and 50, is a bit confusing because I'm seeing the Kiwi moving a lot at the end of the shot, so I expect that the next shot I will see the Kiwi, and I don't. I have an entirely different frame, so I will have to reframe as an audience, which is going to be a bit more problematic for me as an audience. So let's have a look at the Animatic to figure out what went wrong, if anything. You see that at the end of shot 50, the Kiwi is done. He's done with his action. This is not a cut in action. This is a cut with the Kiwi looking in that direction. So in here, the Kiwi should probably sense something, then turn. And then we would see the crane. It doesn't even need to... I don't know how the turn will look like in the end, to be honest, the pose. It's something that you have to study. But the main difference between this animation and the Animatic is that in the Animatic, this is not a cut in action. So once the Kiwi is done with his turn, we have time to think, what is he looking at? And in here, we are thinking, where is he going? The answer is the crane. But the answer is the crane to which question? Where is he going, or what is he looking at? And I think it's the second question. So I don't know if that's a good call for a cut in action there. Here, the crane... Here the crane is doing something a bit bizarre. The crane is rolling down the wings this way while she turns to camera left. A plane would definitely crash in this attitude. So the physics of light in here are a bit skewed. If she were landing, she would probably be landing this way with the left wing up. And you definitely want to see a bit more of a silhouette in the legs in there if you're going to employ the legs. So the legs right now, I mean, this in particular is fully frontal. If you really want to show us the leg, then maybe you should give us a bit more of a silhouette with one of the legs so that we know it's a leg. Okay, so and track the arcs in 3D because this crane is pointing forward, but she's flying sideways. And you know, there is a maneuver in flying, and I think I'm not sure it's called side slip or crab, which does exactly this kind of stuff. That, hey, I mean, it's for different purposes. It's done in order to lose altitude quickly, as far as I remember. And usually, if you do that, you're going to land there, not here. So maybe in here, the problem is the 3D arcs of this flight are a bit all over the place. You should really check some references in here. I know it's origami, but there are birds flying, there are planes flying, so check some references. And this does not look like a wing. It looks like a big ear of an elephant, and this silhouette is not very graceful. So make sure that when we start with the shot, the silhouette is super crisp and clean. I mean, it needs to be looking like the personification of grace. Right now, it's a bit mixed as a first frame. And make sure that landing works in 3D, because I'm pretty sure in here, if we look at the 3D arc, it's going to be looking a bit funky. And try to understand what is the head doing, because right now the head is just traveling one-to-one with the body, which is, I would expect the head either to be behind as the body leans forward to touch the ground, or to lean forward if it needs to aim at something. The only thing I wouldn't expect to see if the head perfectly vertical up there. But I don't know, and certainly I wouldn't expect to see this wing spending so much time down there, because the plane would just slip down that way and crash land with the wing into the ground. That's not the way it works. If anything, you want that to be higher up there. Look at that. You would have such a better silhouette if you just lifted the wings in there. So I'm not sure if this is an advanced blocking or it's still an animatic, but just so that you know, that's what I think of it. The elephant coming in and the kiwi coming in are quite cute. I would probably avoid them twinning. See how they twin, they work together. I wouldn't do it. I would offset their gaits, because right now they move together. So avoid things like this one, because it's going to stay there even in your splining. And I would probably keep a bit more distance between the two so that the silhouettes are not intersecting. Maybe I would put the kiwi, say, here, just a tiny bit more forward, just so that they're not intersecting entirely. There's this very cute moment in which the kiwi has stopped. And the kiwi is almost insecure, it doesn't know if he could move forward. It almost feels like that. And I think it's a nice touch. And I think you could keep that a lot longer. You can probably give it even 5 to 10 frames to that pose and just stay there. So you do a step forward and you're just amazed by what you see. And then you sort of wake up and you just run. It's so exciting. You can actually touch it. It's not like the eagle that you can only stare at. This is something you can actually touch and get to analyze. So I think it's nice that the kiwi is thinking about it in here, but then he has to snap out of it and run like he's doing here. Maybe you can give it some 5-10 frames longer at the staring and then snap out of it and then run. Again, in here, the silhouettes of the legs feels pretty symmetric. I wonder if you could show us a bit more of a leg that bends a little bit. So one of the legs could be straight, but the other one could be bent. That would probably look a bit better. And definitely avoid the super symmetric pose. Definitely, this is so static. I mean, I would imagine that the crane in here would be already looking at the kiwi. The kiwi is like a kid. The crane is like a mother. The crane can fly. The kid cannot. The kid still hasn't found his wings. So I mean, just follow the kid. Just check what the kid is doing. Stay on him. Do not disconnect. Just, I mean, you were looking at the kid just a second ago, and as the kid travels to the other point, you keep looking at it and make these wings a bit asymmetric and the legs a bit asymmetric if possible. This pose is also very problematic because you are exposing the interiors of the kiwi. I don't think this is the best angle of your model. I think this should be a lot more 3/4 so that we see a lot less of what goes on in there, and the kiwi should look up so that we see the gap only here. If you can't change the model, which you can, I think you can, but I mean, I'm not in your production, so I can't say do it. I just say if you can, probably it's a good idea to consider tweaking that hole in the middle. But as a solution, rotate this guy a bit more clockwise so that we see a little bit less of the gap, and also you create a much more direct connection between the mother and the kiwi. I know they're not mother and son, but the expertise relationship is more or less that kind. This dude can fly, or this girl can fly really well without even flapping the wings that much. This guy doesn't even have wings. So I think you want to connect the two guys, and that will create a stronger bond between the two characters and the crane. The crane's idea of well, the crane help will be very relevant after this shot because of this connection. In here, if you're going to spline this, you're going to have an interesting time because it seems like the arc of this walk is straight and then a 90 degrees turn in here almost. So it almost feels like that's the curve. So I mean, you need way more breakdowns before you can go into splining. So maybe shoot some references because they will inform the decision, and animate in camera. And in here, the wing they don't look really cool. In here again, you risk having a bit too much of the empty shell visible. So at the cost of cheating, I would move the Kiwi a bit more to the left and rotate it a bit more 3/4 so that again you create that connection when you begin with between the two characters. Sorry, I'm drawing really crappy drawings in here, but you get what I mean. We don't want to see that hole in front of the Kiwi ever if possible. Okay, I mean, we are bound to see a tiny bit, but it's your hero. You shouldn't have that kind of empty shell that we stare into all the time. So this is really cool. This is a very nice scene. Maybe the take on the way down could be a tiny bit slower. I think maybe you could try delaying 89 by 2-3 frames, and you definitely need a breakdown before 89 to get there, because otherwise maybe it's going to be a bit too fast. Maybe this shot 100. I mean, most of the shots are actually working. I know I'm being very picky, but I mean, since we are here, let's have a look at the stuff as it is. So shot 100 here. There's a lot of stuff going on in shot 100. I wonder if you couldn't just sort it out with a single beat like this and call it a day. Or if you're looking at stuff, I mean, the thing that doesn't convince me is how you break the neck in here. You see, you move the body, camera left, you break the neck, camera right. Couldn't you use the neck as well if you really need to do that kind of motion? I mean, you see how strong the breakage of the neck is in there. See that? It's the only point in the animation in which the neck doesn't seem to be part of the movement. It's just all of a sudden the head breaks over there. So I would maybe reduce it, maybe give a bit more of help with the neck. So in shot 110, the further apart you keep the two characters, the more paternalistic, I don't know if that's a word in English, the more condescending this is going to be. So the crane is going to look really, really patting if you keep the body apart. If you want them to be friends, you need the body to be a lot closer, because that's how you would comfort someone, with the body being really, really close there. At that stage, you will find that you will have troubles looking into the eyes of the Kiwi with the crane, but that's even better because you will try. You know how kids, when they are angry, they don't look at you in the eyes, and you then as a parent you tend to find a way to look into their eye and they turn their head away. I mean, that's a very tender moment, and I think if you get closer to the body of the Kiwi, you will be sort of forced to create that tender moment. So in here it feels a bit like the wing is the body is way away, and if you have the body a lot closer, you can really hug this guy with the wing, and the guy could notice, it could look at the wing. And the wing is the source of so much trouble, but it's also the source of consolation in this shot. So I think it could fit nicely. In the meantime, there's somebody at the back who has an idea, and it would be better if we wouldn't be staring right into the empty belly of this dude, but if we had a 3/4 silhouette for this elephant, because the back silhouette there doesn't quite work, but I trust this is animatic. And you need to figure out the action of putting up that book, because it will probably need to push it up in some way, so you will need references. The rest seems to be animatic, so I'm not going to comment on it. It sort of works. This turn seems blocking, and what's a bit strange about this turn of the Kiwi is that he's turning very quickly, and the arc of the beak is clearly going in that direction, but as he reaches the top, that arc is dead and the beak just goes down, which is strange. Why is he nodding? That's a bit strange. Then why don't you maybe keep going a tiny bit so that you keep that arc alive a little bit? And they walk towards the two friends. I don't know why I have the feeling that the up and downs are off, but oh, I see. Probably because you have the up in here, and try to get to your friends in a 3/4 way so that it's not entirely frontal. So maybe you can start. Maybe you can turn, and as you turn, you step back a little bit, so that as you go to your friends, so that you stay a bit away from the silhouette of your friends, and as you go to your friends, you will be following this path as opposed to go almost straight. Plus, it feels like it's running into the hole there, right at the back of the elephant. And we are missing something in here, I think. Let me check the animatic. So in the animatic, they check the pages. Yeah. And then there's the paper plane right there. And in here, there's very little book in there. So there's no real way to get to the paper plane. So I wonder if you couldn't either pan up in here and show the paper plane at the end of on the book so that we know what this thing is about. Or if you could go straight from shot 130 to 150, and then you place the camera behind your three characters and you frame the book as an alternative. This jump of the character at around 150 is lovely. It's really cool. It's a bit too vertical. And some of the poses, like this one, are clearly a twin machine. The result of a twin machine operation. You see that the feet are perfectly horizontal. Try to make that thing a little bit less symmetrical. Then they work. This one, the first time I watched it, I thought I would have expected the airplane to be a lot bigger. I mean, to be a lot more prominent. And this is something that also in the animatic was a problem. And if you cut once we get that this is the shape of the plane, if you cut a bit of the shape of the plane at the back, well, it's not going to give us much of an issue, right? Because at the end of the day, we recognize this thing as a plane. So I would make it a lot bigger. And here particularly, I mean, look at the size of this guy and the plane. I mean, you really need to look at the size of the wings in comparison to the weight they are carrying for gliders. And in here, I have the feeling that this is way too small. I think I would have expected, at least in this shot, the plane to be at least this wide, so that you would feel like that size could carry the Kiwi. But from this angle, it barely seems like it can carry it. And if that means scaling the plane in the previous shot in a different way than this one and in the next one, then be it. For as long as the audience doesn't realize we're making it so different, it's going to be okay. On shot 210, it would be great if the guy wasn't fully vertical in frame, fully symmetrical. I'm sure this is animatic, but I would really start maybe with the beak on one side and the body a bit curved so that it doesn't look fully vertical, and maybe it would look the other way as well. So we check the thing, whatever happens down there. And I mean, I know that there's the cheapest form of anticipation one can think of is we go back to then go forward. The guy is looking for the green light, right? He's super happy. So maybe there's no need to do this to go up. Maybe you can do a much subtler anticipation in which the head is already going up and leading, and do like that. Or maybe you could even just be a lot more direct and call it a day. If the more anticipation you put in here on 220 before going up, and the more you are going to dilute the next message, which is go. And you're going to dilute in particular the nodding. Since you will need a nodding already to recover from that much action, now what you're doing is you're doing this. You are going down, going up, going down, and then nodding. Why don't you instead keep it a lot simpler and you are looking forward and then you go up this way, so you see much less anticipation, and then you nod. That's it. That's all you need to do, and it will work. If you keep adding anticipations this strong, then you will need more time to settle down before we can read another nod, because you just nodded because you had to do the follow through for this big movement. So I don't think you need that. And the nod needs to happen more around this pivot than around this pivot. Right now it feels, you see that this bit rotates, you see that the body is rotating around this imaginary pivot there. You see that? But if it's a nod, this is a nod. Okay? Yeah. And you can help a bit with the body if you want, but try to keep it simple. In here, it feels like this is an animatic, but check the translation of the elephant. I would, instead of keeping if you move the elephant this much in the animatic, then you are going to animate the elephant walking a lot. What I would do instead is I would keep the elephant in a convenient place, and I would probably do like this with the head, instead of moving the elephant that much. If you're on a deadline. If you're not on a deadline and you have more time, well, by all means, have the elephant walk and do the stroll or whatever. It doesn't really matter, for as long as it looks cool. It feels to me that the crane is looking a bit too much camera right. Maybe it should be a bit more centered, because it feels like the dude, if the Kiwi is crashing down, probably will have done something like this. So maybe the crane is a bit too much looking camera right, but that's a minimum. It's a small thing. Now again. Again, in here, I would probably emerge from here, and I would emerge already, because you're emerging right against the silhouette of the crane. So you either put the crane and the elephant more apart from one another and have the plane come up in the middle, or you have the plane come up in here, but not behind the crane. The only place where you cannot come up is behind one of the two main characters, okay? So you decide where to, but not behind the character. And if you are flying that way, if you come up this way, that means that probably at the beginning you will be already oriented that way. Again, this is physics of flight, so you have to watch some references. And then this is bizarre because the plane starts to be level there, and still it goes up, and then it grows even higher, and we don't see anything in there. If this guy is flying higher, the nose will be pointing up. If the nose will be pointing up, this will be the silhouette. Okay, so we will see the top surface of the plane. That's how things, I think, work. I can only fly gliders on my own, so that's as far as I go. Maybe airliners and engine-powered planes, they have a bit different physics, but I'm pretty sure that if you're going up, your nose is pointing up. unless of course you are in a thermal that is very strong and the plane can be almost level and you can go up this way. But I mean, for dramatic purposes, this looks better than having just a line. The end is, of course, the end of this movie is quite cool, but this is also really strange in terms of physics of flight. It feels like the plane is skidding like a car, with the back of the plane skidding forward as if it was anchored, as if the tip was anchored, and then it starts flying to the right. I mean, planes can do it, okay, but it looks strange in here. I mean, planes can actually fly sideways and they can skid with the bum a little bit, but I would probably keep it a bit more. I would probably make sure that the plane, for the most part, is aligned to the path which is following. Because it's strange to see the plane skidding to the side in here with the bum, and then all of a sudden, with this all this weight being pushed to camera left, all of a sudden it can move camera right. Not only camera right, but up. So I mean, you are defining physics in a bit too many ways in here. I think it should be aligned to the path for the most part. I don't think you can skid that much in here. And I wonder if you wouldn't want to be a lot bigger in frame in here as you leave, and have a much bigger plane in there with the Kiwi, so that you end up the scene in a bit more of a heroic triumphant tone, like this movie deserves. So for the most part, I think the movie is working and it's actually looking pretty nice. It's the story is very clear. You have a couple of story beats to clear in there, and I think the most difficult part in here in terms of animation is to keep it simple, is not to add too much stuff. The whole purpose is simplicity in here. So this is the showreel piece here is the movie, not the single shot itself. Although there are some very good shots around in here that could be used for a showreel. So I think this is it. Have fun.
My